Hello, everybody. It's George Whittam reporting for Whittam's World, a evening edition of Whittam's World. Yes, well, I'm catching up a little bit, and I didn't want to fall too behind, so I'm doing one at night. So I hope the lighting is okay. I try to capture the holiday mood. Happy holidays, by the way. Um, yeah, so a few questions that have been accumulating in my inbox, and I've been wanting to get to these. So it's been difficult for me to make the time to produce a full-blown production lately on these questions. So I just thought, you know what, get the answers out there as quickly as we can so folks can use the information. So let's get right at it. Dave Young has a question about microphones. He says, I have a $500 mic budget for my only voiceover mic. I've narrowed down the list to two large diaphragm condensers or a shotgun. And here's where things get interesting. The only reason the shotgun is on the list at all is because I have actually found a lightly used Sennheiser MKH-416 for sale for under $400. And I know what a screaming deal that is, but I'm hesitant to pull the trigger. The reason is my question. Should any talent or any VO talent have a shotgun as their only VO mic? I've read so many great things about the 416, but they always seem to include something about the fact that it's not a mic for every type of VO work, and it's usually talked about in the context of heavily produced commercials and trailers. That's a good question. 416 shotgun mic. Okay, well, the 416 shotgun mic is a great home studio mic and it's a great travel mic because it's so forgiving to noise. It doesn't pick up as much background noise in the room, and so that's why people like it. That's one reason people like it. Another reason people like the Sennheiser 416 is it just has a certain sound that cuts through in a mix. So in other words, when you use this mic for commercial, promo, trailer, any type, especially promo, trailer, and radio, anything where your voice has to be louder than everything else in the mix and be very clear, this microphone tends to cut really well. But for that reason, it may not be the most pleasing sounding mic to listen to on its own without being mixed with music and effects. So when you're hearing a voice dry with this mic, it could be less than ideal sounding. Doesn't mean it can't EQ it, but it may not be the smoothest, warmest microphone out there. It's really made to accentuate and make the voice really cut through. Now, a used Sennheiser 416 for $400 or under $400 is pretty much unheard of. So if you found one for under $400, I would make sure that whoever the seller is a reputable seller and someone that's going to offer you to return it if there's something wrong. The reason I say that is because there was a flood of counterfeit 416s on the market a few years ago. And if it's one of those, it doesn't sound like the real deal. Doesn't sound like it at all. So be very, very aware. Beware when you're buying used mics. Buy from somebody who will offer a return, someone that has really good feedback, somebody that does nothing but sells equipment and doesn't just sell random, bizarre bits and bobs. Just check your sources, make sure you can count on this person you're buying it from. So should it be your only VO mic? If you're doing promo trailer, that's pretty much all those folks use. If you're doing narration, e-learning, things like that, because you said you do corporate and e-learning, may not really be the mic of choice. And again, if it's a counterfeit, run away. I would definitely try out one of the other two mics that you did not happen to name in this email instead, for sure. So thanks, Dave. I appreciate your question. Let's go to another one here. This one comes from Michelle Tanner, and she says she's looking for a better mic holder to hang a mic in a small space. She says, I'm ready to record in my tiny 3x3 corner of the closet space, but I'm not sure what equipment to use to hang my somewhat heavy MXL 2001 mic in front of me. Not enough space for a floor stand. I've got a space about 8 by 8 inches on a table for a tabletop stand. What would you recommend to hang that microphone? Um, there's a lot of options out there, and one that you mentioned is a product that's called the K&M KM23850 microphone desk arm. Now, I think I know which one that is, and I'm going to look it up right now to see if it's the one I'm thinking of. Um, yeah, that's a standard broadcast style mic arm. It's the style that looks like a lamp arm. It's articulated and it can bend, and it has springs that suspend it. I like those a lot, actually. I'm not as big a fan of mounting them to a tabletop or a shelf, though, because they tend to pick up any vibration or anything you do that would bump the shelf, either elbows or arms or anything else. So for that reason, I'm not particularly fond of tabletop mounting. If you mounted it to the wall, though, that's a different story. And you can look up a brand called Heil, Heil, and they have wall mount brackets you can screw to the wall. Heil also makes a microphone boom that I really like. It's a very short mic arm that looks like a standard arm, but it comes with a bracket that you can clamp to a table, or you can buy their wall mount bracket. And I think it's called the Heil SB2. I'm going to double check that right now. Yeah, the Heil Sound SB-2. It's the small boom arm. And I like it because it's very versatile. You can mount it upside down or right side up. And again, if you get their wall mount bracket that they sell, look for a Heil wall mount, Heil. You can screw it directly to a wall surface. And that thing is fantastic. It's compact enough that you can fit it in a small space, but it can be angled and it can telescope in and out to get the mic exactly where you need it. That's one of my favorites. And then using a shock mount, you can mount your microphone upside down with that very, very easily. You can either use the mount that came with your mic or get an aftermarket shock mount, or what they call maybe a universal shock mount, that will hold that microphone. My favorite is made by a company called Rycote, Rycote, and it's called the Envision USM. That is my favorite universal shock mount for just about any microphone. And it will mount to any microphone stand or arm that you would find used for music or studio recording. So it's a really, really great combo to use with your microphone. Thank you for that question, Michelle. All right, what else do we have? We've got one that came in here from about power conditioners. This one came from Catherine Angus, or Kate Angus in Madrid. She says, should I get a power conditioner, and if so, do I need to invest in the really expensive ones that include a voltage regulator? I use a surge protector strip that cost me the equivalent of around 20 bucks. However, recently my Audient ID14, which I only bought in June, died on me. It is being repaired or will be replaced, and it has occurred to me that it may have been damaged by a wonky power supply in my area. My studio is out in the sticks. In any event, I'd like to have reasonable protection for my equipment, but I don't have a huge budget at this stage. I don't have a rack as such. Just the Audient plugged into the computer and the mic. Any thoughts? If that's what's happened to you, if you lost power or a power supply went out on the Audient, that could be a fluke. It may be unrelated, but it's not a bad idea to get something that's a step up from a surge protector. All a surge protector can do is protect your equipment from a spike of electricity in case of a really bad power surge, but it doesn't in any way regulate voltage. All it does is shut off the circuit. A voltage regulator will level out voltage that goes up and down over time. So if you're in an area where you have a lot of brownouts or the power tends to sag, the voltage that's coming in tends to go up and down, a voltage regulator might be a good idea. One of the best deals going actually is to get a UPS or battery backup system that has a voltage regulator circuit built into it. And I actually just got one very recently because at my house here in Topanga, California, we've had a couple brownouts in the last few months, or one blackout actually, and I don't want to lose data on my computer, so I bought this power supply. And the reason I got this particular one, I'm uncovering it so I can read the model number of it. The reason I got this particular one is because it is a what they call a true sine UPS. So that means when it's running on the batteries, it's putting out a pure, clean power that's totally clean and can be used for audio gear without making any weird noise or buzzing or anything. It also has a voltage regulator built in as well. So you get the battery backup, a voltage regulator. It also does surge suppression. It does all this different stuff. And if you look up CyberPower, let's see, 1000 PFCLCD. I think that's what it says. It's hard to read from here. Um, it's a fantastic unit, and maybe where you are, it might be really expensive to get one like this. It could be more than $200. I'm not sure. But I think if you're going to spend that kind of money on a power conditioner, you might as well get one that has a battery backup in it too. This thing pretty much does everything in one single box. So, another question from Jose Santos. A valve mic has more self noise compared to a condenser one, he's asking. A valve mic is also known as a tube mic. For instance, for a voiceover narration, helping to achieve a more warm and natural voice, would I want to use a Rode NTK, which is a valve or tube mic, or a TLM-103? I'm thinking about a new and a second option mic. I use the Sennheiser 416 and I really love it, but I also need a more neutral mic for narrations. Kind of ties into that question earlier about the 416, huh? I tend to shy away from tube stuff just because it's a maintenance issue. They do tend to be slightly noisier, and the Rode NTK will definitely have a higher self noise than the TLM-103 because the 103 is a very quiet mic. That said, I actually do prefer the sound of the NTK over the TLM-103 a little bit. So the only way you're going to know for sure is to demo both mics and see which one works great for your voice. I can tell you anything I want. It doesn't matter until you use it on your voice to determine whether it's the mic one for you. Going back a few messages, this one comes from Greg Perry. Greg Perry says, I'm a Windows-only audiobook shop, so they use Pro Tools. And he says that we've found that when we record in Audacity, the sound quality, we use Pro Tools for recording and sound processing, but for cut and paste editing, removing errors and things, they still prefer Audacity for editing. They find it faster. So they kind of do a hybrid. And they'd really like to just use Audacity and not use Pro Tools, but they say that they've gotten better audio quality when recording in Pro Tools than in Audacity, which is really weird. I mean, recording software's job is to record whatever comes in and capture it. So if you're getting different sound quality between the two devices on a Windows machine, I gave this a little bit of thought, and I really only have one real theory about that, and that could be the audio drivers being used. There's a possibility that when you're recording in Audacity, you're using different sound drivers than you're using in Pro Tools. And why would that matter? Well, in Windows environment, some of the sound drivers go through the Windows sound control panel and go through a lot more signal routing inside the operating system. So there's more things in the way. Now, it's all in the digital domain, so it shouldn't matter. But there's more going on, so there's more things that could possibly go wrong. But when you're recording in Pro Tools, likely the audio driver that's being used with your audio hardware is probably talking directly to Pro Tools and bypassing all of the other audio drivers, Windows Classic Wave drivers, and all that kind of stuff. That's my only, that's the only thing I can think of, unless it's a placebo effect, which I don't know. I mean, you'd have to send me two samples with give me a blind study, send me two samples recorded on both systems in a wave format, exactly the same bit rate and everything, sample rate. Just label them sample 1 and 2, and I'll see if I can hear a difference if you want to have a neutral third party. But that's really unusual. It almost never matters what DAW or what software you use to record. It's mainly about the mic, the preamp, and the AD converters and things like that that really make the difference for the most part. Last one I'll shoehorn in here for the night because it's getting kind of long. And this one is from Rob Novak. My question is for those of us not in foam boxes, but who have decided to just treat a room in their house the best they can and have a window in their room. What treatments do you recommend for windows in a recording space to keep sound out? Oh man, windows are a real challenge. So if you're in an older home with a single pane casement window that rattles in the wind, or just doesn't stop a lot of sound, you're going to have to beef up that window. So if you do a little search online for window soundproofing or window isolation, you'll find products that are designed to retrofit onto your existing windows. Now, those can be anything from a very quick and dirty solution, which I call a window plug, and that's basically getting some drywall, cutting the drywall just slightly smaller than the opening of the window, and then putting a rubber gasket around the edge of it. It's like weather stripping, and then shoving it into the window and enclosing the entire window with drywall. Yes, you lose the window, but you gain soundproofing, a lot of soundproofing. It's the best bang for the buck when it comes to silencing a window. If you want to still see out the window, then check out sound isol or window soundproof windows or window proof soundproofing kits that you can install yourself to silence or quiet down noise coming in from your outside window. Other than that, drapes, blankets, things like that, they don't stop much sound at all. There's not much you can just hang over a window that's going to really give you much improvement in the sound. So you really do need to make that extra expense to isolate the room better. And one of those items is from a company called, I think it's soundproofwindows.com. And Soundproof Windows sells uh, retrofittable windows that can be installed. Some of their things can be installed by the homeowner, and some of their products are a little bit more elaborate and expensive, and you'll need to actually have a contractor install their windows. But that's like the ultimate solution. If you really, really want isolation, check out soundproofwindows.com for really, really good isolating windows. Soundproofing window kit. See if that finds with the one I'm looking for. 'Cause there's one I'm thinking of. I've seen it, but I can't remember the specific product right now. Noise reduction soundproofing kits. Portable panels for noise. Soundproofing windows removable plug. There's a company with a web domain, soundproofing.org, which has articles on how to do that kind of stuff. So check out soundproofing.org for some good articles on soundproofing windows by creating window plugs or adding on additional materials to better isolate the window. I've seen this site before. It's a pretty good, pretty accurate article. Well, that's it for me tonight. I think we're gonna sign off. I don't know how long I've been talking because Facebook doesn't have a timer telling me how long I've been talking, but it's been at least 15 minutes probably, so it's time for me to go. This has been George Whittam reporting for Whittam's World, and if you have any ideas for a future episode, a question, maybe a product you want to have a review on, send an email to whittamsworld@edgestudio.com. And I sure love your comments. If you have any comments about the video you saw, check out and leave comments down below right here in Facebook. I really appreciate it. You can also post your questions and requests right here on Facebook. And if you're watching this on YouTube, check out the comments below and leave comments there. I do check your comments on YouTube as well, and I will answer them. Thanks again. George Whittam for Whittam's World. Find me on the web at edgestudiotechnology.com for everything recording studio technology related. And happy holidays, everybody. Thanks for listening. Take care.